It's that time again. Well, another week's gone by. I was gonna skip the whiskeys class for a while, but the fact is that today is my oldest son's birthday. He's 30, and when I gave him some options, he went with lean towards whiskey. And quite frankly, I've had a couple requests for this drink. Today we're gonna do a perfect Manhattan. So I should start this out by saying that there are a lot of ways to do this drink, and I know people somewhere in Brooklyn, somewhere in Atlanta, probably in Athens are going to look at this thing and go, what the heck, that's not how I do it. A lot of it has to do from where your family's from, what area they're from. If they're from the US, normally the original recipe actually started with what they called an American whiskey, so a lot of people use bourbon in the US. Rye whiskey is pretty popular though in the northern US and up into Canada and a lot of places in the world. Rye whiskey is the preferred. In the end, I'm not going to win a battle with that. The other thing you're going to hear about is cherries versus lemons. Some people say, oh my God, it's not a Manhattan if it doesn't have a lemon on it. And some people say, oh my God, it's not a Manhattan if you don't have a cherry on it. I'm not even going to debate all that with you because we would be here all night and your grandmother would probably trump me. So with that being said, tonight we're going to make the perfect Manhattan. A regular Manhattan's a lot sweeter. It just has mostly sweet vermouth. Our ingredients tonight are going to be, for the liquor, I'm going to use a bourbon because we're in America and that's the way we roll down here. But like I said, I put a rye down there in case you want to do that. Vermouth, it's a half of a shot or ounce of dry and a half an ounce of sweet vermouth, so a red and a white normally. You can buy these, man, you can spend as much or as little as you want. These I use over here on the end, they're pretty affordable and pretty reasonable. Today we're going to be using the fancier stuff. This one is the one you're going to probably hear, Antica. A lot of people swear by it, but it's, I mean, $20 a bottle or something for that little bottle. Dolan is pretty good all around and reasonably priced at about $12 for a big bottle, so not a bad deal. The normal bitters that we've been using, the Angostura bitters, is also going to be in there, and that's really it. So to make this drink, 2 ounces of your whiskey of choice. Today we are going to be using something that I just picked up, never tried it, Cooper's Mark bourbon whiskey, small batch. I don't know how good it's going to be, I'll let you know when this is over, but you want to once again use something with a pretty high alcohol content to try and fight its way through the flavor. So 2 ounces of your whiskey of choice, a half ounce of each of the sweet and dry vermouths. You will actually find some people that will just take the vermouth and swirl it around in the glass. Because that's as much as they want and then they'll empty it out. If you're in a nice place and want to be fancy, I would chill your glass. We'll do it here just for effects and let that sit in the beginning. 2 dashes of bitters, and that's all your ingredients. So 2 shots of your whiskey of choice, a half of each of the sweet and dries, and then 2 shakes of the bitters. You can shake it if you want, a lot of people do. Today we're going to stir it. Most places that you go, depending on what you're paying, and if you're in a fancy place, they're going to stir it. And it's going to have the same effect with less ice chips coming out and less ice shattering. So you'll see a lot of the nicer places stir it until they get it. Should be condensing and frosting up like it is on the outside of the glass. That's really it. Once you get that, take your glass. Hopefully it's chilled. This one's barely chilled. Empty it out, but you can still see it's chilled just from that. We got the strainer, wherever the heck I put that thing. Oh, there it is. And pour it in. At this point, your only decision is whether or not your grandmother's going to yell at you for putting one thing in or the other. Most of the people that I make these for prefer cherries, so I will do that. A lot of times you can actually just sink a cherry. You can use maraschino, or you can use the fancy cherries we've talked about, or lemon peel, whichever one you want. I would drop them right in the drink, one of whichever you prefer. The maraschino is actually nice in this to me. That is your entire drink for a perfect Manhattan. So don't drink and drive. If you need anything in the real estate world, please call me. And a brief history of this drink, even though my wife says I'm going too long. Somewhere about the 1830s is when they think it was invented. 1830 to 1860, there are several different versions that come out. They vary greatly from what we have here, but the basis is there as far as a whiskey and a vermouth. After that, nobody's really sure who did it, so there's 2 people that claim to have invented the drink. It doesn't really matter to us today, we just get to enjoy it. So Today we have the Perfect Manhattan. Gary out in Claremont, shout out to you. Shannon in Atlanta, and then my son Joe, happy birthday. Cheers, and we'll see you guys next week.